putt from Anthony Barella. He ties the lead all square with Eagle McMahon through 13 holes. Likely being a drop-in for par, and he can close out his first ever major. Oh my goodness, final, what just happened on 16?
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 European Open.
Hello and welcome back to coverage of the 2023 Finnish National Disc Golf Championships. We are here in the final 9 of the final round, with only 9 holes of Mukkula Disc Golf Park remaining until we crown your next Finnish disc golf champion. We are excited to be bringing you round 4 back 9 MPO lead card coverage, brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, Connor, and what is up, viewers? We saw some moves on the front 9. Niklas Anttila not playing a great front 9, only at 1 under. And what a contrast between him and Rasmus Saukkoriipi, who played a 5 under. Great front 9, alongside with Joutsen. Obviously, the difference between the two leaders is only 2 strokes, but also the fight for the lead, and especially for the 3rd place, is very tough. A lot of players right down there. As we're continuing our wooded stretch of the course, hole 10 here suiting very well for a flex forehand. Even a flat forehand can work if you can push it far enough around these branches of these trees, and right after them you want that big fade to the right. Ideally you're throwing a distance driver forehand, mostly because of the distance of the hole is quite long, but I believe Rasmus might be even going for a fairway driver.
We will have Kristian here to kick off our back 9 action. Playing the soft flex here with a significantly overstable disc, as well as a touch of nose up. We've seen Kristian shaping this forehand previously, and that is a good correction from the previous rounds, which we've seen from him. Very difficult to get anywhere near the bullseye. That sort of throw indicates a great line and a solid result, leaving him in the circle.
And Rasmus here going for a flat top, very overstable Firebird, but right out of the hand he knew that was too far left and too straight. He has kicked down from the trees and gonna have a long look at the birdie still, but quite unlikely to put that in, and this might be the time for possibly Puru or Niklas could get some strokes on Rasmus, with Puru throwing a beautiful looking forehand. Wow, look at this! This is by far the best drive we have seen throughout the weekend. Able to park the hole, which I believe not very many people are doing. Wow, what a great shot.
Yeah, Puru really showing off his forehand prowess there. Absolutely the best that we have seen on coverage. Just great example of how to use the width of the fairway, getting it around that last tree. Niklas here fading very early. Does find himself caught up, although Rasmus is not too close to the green either. This is absolutely not where you want to be, regardless of who's chasing you. Niklas in an awkward spot looking to scramble with a high spike hyzer forehand. And very well done taking the 3. This stretch of holes really playing heavily towards par for the majority of the field. This one sitting at 70% pars. And Rasmus actually able to give it a sort of soft bid, maybe knowing that he wants to bridge that gap a little bit further between him and Niklas. Also looks to be taking a 3. Kristian and Puru both with their birdie putts, the first of which connects nicely there.
Super good birdie there from Kristian. He didn't have the greatest front 9 either. Kind of similar to Niklas, but already starting off hot on this back 9. And the back 9, even though it has way more bogey potential than the front 9, you can still birdie a lot of these holes on the back nine. All of them very reachable for the birdie. And we're gonna have Pyro here just for a tap-in birdie. And there was actually not another player in the field that was inside the bullseye on this hole in this final round. So that's truly an exceptional drive from Pyro.
Extraordinary as we see 2 players find the birdie here on hole 10 and 2 pars playing quite above the average of the field, showing us just why they've made this final round lead card.
And we're moving on to another even more tightly wooded hole. Hole 11 here, this time going quite severely downhill. It shapes really good for a slight Anheuser backhand, but we see a lot of our players going for just a safe forehand. Try to hit the gap, fade your way right and down the hill. Quite often the forehand ends up in circle 2. If you hit the gap well and fading to the right, you might find yourself in that circle 2 range.
Kristian playing the forehand, has it a little bit wide on the release and will still have a lot of distance left to the green. With quite some obstacles, will be a very tricky par even from where he is. Pyro here with a very soft and gentle looking backhand turnover. Some great glide out of this as he hit the height and angles perfectly, and even finding a tree on the green to settle him softly. He is really having some great results and great throws right now. Looking very well composed considering the high stakes situation.
Rasmus here, leaning on that Toro once again. Very comfortable disc for him, and looks like he has pushed the forehand towards the straight long side. Didn't quite see where that is, but have to assume that it's not very close. Niklas here going for very inside of a forehand. This needs some help from the trees and does not get it. He's gonna be on the outer edge of circle 2 on that right side. But that's a very common result with that forehand. If you don't push it forward at the same time as you're going down to the right, you're gonna end up in that long circle 2.
We see Kristian with an awkward release and stance, quite unhappy with it out of the hand, and you can see why there. Firing past the basket and to the left will be a long putt remaining for par. Rasmus, understanding the situation and assessing the risk, pitches up with a simple putt. This is Niklas to save his par.
I believe this might actually be Niklas for the birdie after the drive to the long circle 2. But he's gonna have a par of his own there. So no strokes gained or lost near the lead here. And Kristian for the par. Not quite able to get it. He's gonna drop one back right after that great birdie on 10.
And Pyro once again securing the birdie at a time where many others are simply playing for par or even over that. Looking very smooth here on this back nine, has pushed himself to 22 under. So we see Kristian here, even some distance left on this putt. And he does find it for bogey, as he will drop just one back from his 18 under. This is Niklas now for his short par, and once again leaving nothing to chance.
Yeah, this is you can just see how much this tournament means to Niklas, especially as he has lost some strokes. It's the most valuable title we have in Finland. You have the Finnish Nationals, and obviously in Europe you have the European Championships, but that's pretty much it for the big titles in Europe as far as championships. So Niklas trying to make some history as well. As we're moving on to hole 12, 97 meters, another one of these very tightly wooded holes. You have option of two gaps. You can go for this inside gap with a very tight hyzer, that the drone is flying through, but most players actually trying to go for the outer gap, which is a bit of a more straight pushing hyzer to start, but then with that very strong left finish at the end of the flight, if you're going for that outer gap, you need a little bit of luck at the end to miss a couple of trees. But it's one of the easier holes on the back nine, and a hole that you would like to pick the birdie on, or at least be putting for the birdie.
And Puru a little bit wide, kicking to the left. That is less favorable of the two sides. A very difficult position for him remaining. We see Rasmus game face on now, still 2 strokes behind Niklas, 2 ahead of Puru. Pushing this inside hyzer has settled very nicely, and he puts the pressure on now with a great shot to just about bullseye's edge. Niklas has really struggled from hole 6 onwards to this point in this final round. An opportunity for him to get back onto the scoreboard with a birdie, and it looks like he will do just that, matching Rasmus's line almost exactly.
2 very impressive shots there, able to squeak through all the trees on this hole. And Kristian also with a nice looking line, just needs to miss a couple trees at the end. Unfortunate skip there. The last root of the last tree, kicking him to outer edge of circle 1 and gonna have a pretty tricky putt from there. And talking about tricky, look at this approach from Puru. He will pretty much just have to pick one of those tiny gaps and hope that he will hit it perfectly with a slight hyzer.
But unable to do so, has cut down his distance to the green a little bit, but still by no means easy. And not only is he in a super wide straddle, but actually going forehand roller to try and open up these gaps. And look at that touch and scramble. Great display there from a very awkward position. He will be putting for bogey, but from that point, even that was difficult to find. Good scramble on that third shot from him. Kristian with a chance from just barely inside. Unable to translate it here. As you see some frustration from him as well. The holes are dwindling down. Not too many still remaining. And we actually still are on Puru here, speaking to just how well placed both Niklas and Rasmus are.
Yep, Puru there gonna take a bogey, and that is going to slim his chances at the victory quite significantly, as he's going to be 6 strokes back after this hole. Almost for a moment it looked like Puru had a pretty good chance even for pushing, or even to push for that first position, as he was getting just within 4 strokes off the lead. But now the gap getting so much wider, and with only 6 holes to play after this, Puru would have to play pretty much perfect after to go for the lead. As we see Niklas here tapping in for the birdie. Rasmus will do the same in a moment, and Kristian just a short putt for the par.
Both Niklas and Rasmus matching each other so far in this back 9 with 2 pars and then the birdie. The stroke difference remains at 2 going down the stretch.
Haribo Click Mix. Monta hyvää pikkukarkkia, lakua, hedelmää ja rakeita.
If I understand what they're saying, is this ad less annoying?
Näistä pehmeistä syöistä. Mä tykkään niistä kaikista. Niin mäkin. Haribo Click Mix.
Okay. Okay.
And we're walking way up the hill for the last hole of this more wooded section of the course. Hole 13 is playing at a respectable 151 meters, going, I believe, about 13 meters downhill, so it plays closer to 125. Most players are throwing either a distance driver or a fairway driver, trying to hit the gap halfway through the fairway, and hopefully still after that gap have a bit of a flip up, and only after that have that hyzer finish towards the hole. Very difficult hole to park, and most common score here is definitely a par, since it's a pretty easy par, but a very difficult birdie.
As we saw Rasmus there with a very nice width, although just pushing a bit too long. If he were able to find that late fade, would have been quite a fine shot. Just a matter of short distances here. Niklas with a much lower, more penetrating line, but does not crest the hill there. Will leave him with a jump putt approach. Potentially blind. He did push quite close to the edge, may be able to see it, but it'll be a coin flip, and Kristian now. This looks like a great adjustment. We saw an incredible shot from him in round 3, and he has matched it almost identically here in round 4, getting all the way up there to the green. So difficult to keep your driver from going off to that left side once you do make it to the green, though. That is about as good of a shot as you'll get.
Yep, and Pyry trying to follow that line, but just gets that tiny bit more of a turnover. But that's a nice kick. All three of Niklas, Rasmus and Pyry are likely going to have just long jump putts here. But even though it's a jump putt, it's a pretty long distance, over 50 meters going downhill from here, and the angle control is tricky. Niklas doing a pretty good job of that. Just 5 meters left. And important to land your disc flat here. That's really the key, to not have any rollaways on this difficult green.
And I also like Niklas's use of height, ensuring that he hits the ground before the basket on this downslope. We saw Pyry kind of float one out there a little bit higher, and Rasmus also ensuring to hit the ground beforehand and slide on up. All three of them with very successful routes to the tap in par. We see Kristian with a long chance at birdie. And in fact, just laying that one up, saying he'll take the 3 here.
And 3 is gonna be the case for everybody on the card, as it looks like. A very common score on this hole. Another one of these holes in the middle stretch of this course that is very commonly parred, but rarely birdied. What was the scoring on this one, Connor? How many pars and how many birdies were there?
Yeah, this one definitely averaging over par at 3.38. Only 8% of the field finding a birdie and 26 finding bogey, with an additional 6% finding double or more. Hole 13 proved to be treacherous even on this final day, came with some danger.
And talking about danger, we're entering the very dangerous last 5-hole stretch on this course. All very open holes with a lot of OB, starting on 14. Just a long, slightly downhill playing par 4 with that OB on the left side, right where a lot of the drives like to land. You're throwing that right-hand backhand hyzer off the tee. You need to push the right side tree line off the tee to avoid that left side OB. And if you throw a good drive, you're set up for a nice forehand flat to hyzer approach. Rasmus is going for a firebird actually here, just trying to play it safe, the fairway driver, but also with his arm speed get some good distance.
But looking for the safe play, finds anything but that, going OB to the left off a huge skip. Really pivotal moment as we see Niklas here now getting this one up to flat, and this is looking too straight. Unable to fade in time, he just skims the tree line and comes back to safety. A huge moment for him to try and separate himself once again from this very hungry pack of players continuing to chase him and his lead position. We see Kristian now.
Kristian here with a D2, but this is also fading towards the left side, and he knew it out of the hand. That was going to be on the left side OB. Just a very easy miss to make. Fairway is surprisingly skippy, even with some of the thick grass. That is definitely cut pretty low. I mean, there's a lot of skips on this one, especially towards the left. And Pyry here, making sure to push the right side even a little bit more than he would probably like. That is going to be resulting in a very tricky approach. A lot of distance left from there, and Puru, not being a particularly famous for his huge sidearm, but looks like he's still going for it. This is a big shot, about 120 to 130 to the green.
But he has kept this low and turned over, I think, showing that height was either a misrelease or simply playing for the fairway. Kristian, important to try and get to the green here if he wants to secure his par save. And just an incredible touch. Masterful display of the power, hitting the soft flex into late fade. Really good angle and distance control from him. Rasmus looking to match that just a few meters closer up. Also having that OB is playing for par at best here.
And Rasmus going even a little bit long. He's gonna have a great chance for the par there. Going long on that 105 meter standstill Firebird sidearm. Pretty impressive. But that is leaving Niklas with a chance to get at least one stroke on Rasmus with a good approach here. And that's a decent approach. I would not call that great, because he's left with a circle 2 look still.
And Puru has played 2 shots into the fairway, his third here. Just a soft little chip hyzer into the green, and he has done just that. This is an interesting green, because a lot of players come in with a sharp, overstable disc. We see Niklas with the opportunity that does not match him in the middle. He does not meet that one there. And unfortunately now playing for par. Wow, Rasmus with a strong side putt that goes out the back. He will be tapping in his bogey, Puru his par, and Niklas likely his par as well.
Wow. What a huge moment, and what a huge bad break for Rasmus. I saw that putt from a replay, and that was actually cutting through the chains on the right side. Very unfortunate moment. That's what sometimes happens with these Prodigy baskets. They don't have any center spit outs. Quite rarely do you see one come out from the middle, but the side chains are a little bit loose, setting sometimes up for that spit out that we saw from Rasmus. Just a very unfortunate moment. Especially now, since the lead is gonna be 3 strokes going into the final 4. Although 3 strokes is nothing on these holes. Starting on 15, a par 5, a relatively short par 5, even sets up for an eagle chance if you can throw a huge drive. But most players setting up their drive in the middle of the field, and from there trying to throw a forehand through some trees and up to this hillside, where you still have not a lot of distance left to the green, but just a lot of tiny trees that you have to avoid. It's really about getting some good distance off the tee, and after that just scrambling your way through the woods. Niklas here trying to go with a bit of a flip up hyzer.
And a good looking shot from Niklas, playing a little bit more to that left side. Does open up the angle around the curve to the right. Not too much bitten off there, as he simply wants to put himself in a good spot to continue attacking. Does not need to push this tee shot. And Kristian, another moment where he's released it and looks a little bit displeased in his body language, although an absolutely fine result as well.
And Puru here, possibly in a position where he could be going for a bigger drive. As he is, look at this shot, getting a lot of glide. And he's also on more of the left side of the fairway, which is going to open up that angle to hopefully approach far down the tunnel. And Rasmus here, he threw a massive drive on an earlier round here, and this is looking massive as well. Just look at the speed on the disc.
Oh, that stump. That could have been a huge difference in terms of his approach angle what could have been a straight open look to the green was prevented by that super short stump that will now leave him with that traditional forehand hyzer. We saw Kristian there looking to shape that, has made his way to the bottom of the hill. Quite a common way to play this hole so far for him. Niklas actually going backhand here. Shaping one through the gaps, looking to crash into this hillside on flat, and gets a little bit rejected there, but more than enough distance to still be in play for birdie.
Very surprisingly aggressive play from Niklas, trying to get that backhand turnover quite far down there. Even with that 3-stroke lead. And we saw Puru getting nice and inside with the forehand. That's what you have to do. And especially Rasmus here. He has to go for that eagle here. Nice and inside with forehand, but just too far inside. And he's gonna have a difficult approach from there, even for the birdie.
Puru shaping this beautifully up the hill, just center cut. You see that spin out in bullseye. A textbook execution of hole 15. He will be left with a tap in birdie. Kristian as well shaping a good shot up here. Able to get aggressive off the band. You touched on Niklas's aggressive line, whereas Rasmus was obliged to. Niklas, you might recall in round 3, had some troubles accessing the green, maybe trying to reduce the distance remaining here in round 4. A very good shot by Rasmus to try and throw it in. We see him going long because he is trying to do just that. Get every stroke he can. Important moment now.
And Niklas not quite getting up there. He's gonna have a circle 2 look there, whereas Rasmus is inside the circle. This is a big putt now.
Wow. At the moment where he needed it most to solidify his lead going down the stretch. We see that from another angle here. Just a pure commitment and focus. Up the hill. The height and speed is there. Just barely to the left side, but very central on the chains. And he runs that one in. Kristian here with a great putt to secure his birdie as well on 15.
Yep, that's nice. And Rasmus here, a pretty important putt as well, as he has missed it to the right. And Rasmus has gone way down the hill. He might not even be in circle 2, and just look at this position. This is for par. And just able to lay it up inside the circle there. What a huge error there. Down the stretch. Rasmus is gonna take a bogey when he was putting for a birdie, and he's gonna be 5 strokes back with only 3 to play.
Wow, you saw that physical and visceral reaction from him the moment the putter left his hand.
European Disc Golf Championships 2023. The most important disc golf event of the year is taking place in Estonia in the Tallinn Song Festival grounds from the 16th to the 20th of August. Get your tickets from eurodiscgolf.eu, our sponsors helping to fly the discs.
5-stroke difference is still very possible to make up in these final 3 holes, especially hole 16. You have a long par 4 just filled with OB. Off the tee, players are trying to throw as safe and long of a hyzer as possible, hopefully leaving themselves with a 100-meter forehand approach to this green, which is obviously filled with OB on both the long right and short side. And Niklas here, super important to be inbounds here.
And coming back out into the open field, we see the wind coming back into play, and Niklas able to skip himself in bounds. Great shot as he converses with his caddy briefly there. Kristian now. has fallen back a little bit from these guys on the lead card at 18 under. Puru and Rasmus now competing for that second place position. That's a solid drive from Kristian.
Yeah, very nicely done there. Not really biting off a lot of distance. As you have on this hole, you have a choice to either go for a huge drive or a bit of a safer one. And everybody on the card not wanting to take a lot of distance. But maybe Rasmus here, he's 5 strokes back. He might want to put some pressure on Niklas with a bigger drive. Going with the PD2. And he has also made his way to the fairway, although significantly further than everybody else. That's gonna put some pressure on Niklas, although he has made easy work of this approach in the previous rounds.
And do you think after the events of the last hole, Rasmus is still keeping Niklas in his mind, or is it now Puru that he needs to focus on? As we see that shot over the gallery, some fast feet to get out the way, finding OB. Just as I mentioned, his potential contention with Rasmus for that second and third place spot. I see Niklas with the upshot here to just about circle's edge. Can run that if he chooses to, most likely will given his putting prowess, but doesn't necessarily need to.
Kristian here going inside, but look at that roll. Hitting the tree on the edge of the OB line and rolling inbounds. What a great hit there. And Rasmus here so far down the fairway, he's only throwing a Toro with the forehand. Also fading out early, but another just beautiful roll. That tree is just giving generous rolls to everybody. I think they should just straight up aim to that tree.
Certainly the giving tree here today. Puru having gone out of bounds. Gives that one a nice adjustment and puts himself up there. This is Niklas to birdie hole 16. And he just airballs it to the right. A really uncommon mistake from him at that distance, and you see on his face how inappropriate that feels to this context and these circumstances, but every putt very difficult, including that one for Kristian. We see not much spin or speed on it as we go back to our leader.
Very important putt here, coming back. And Niklas, what are we seeing right now? Missing from circle 1 on the first putt and missing the comebacker. He's gonna give potentially 2 strokes to Rasmus if Rasmus can just make his putt from around 6 meters here.
I think Rasmus even a little bit closer with the roll off the tree. I think fair to say he will be birdieing this hole.
Oh, very true. We can actually see his disc right there. He's absolutely parked. Wow, that's a huge mistake from Niklas. It almost looked like he already had the tournament in the bag, but now it's only gonna be 3 strokes of difference going into 17. And 17 has a lot of potential for a 2-stroke swing. Wow, this is getting exciting right now. As we mentioned, hole 17. A lot of potential for that 2-stroke difference. It sets up great for a flex forehand, even just a flat to hyzer forehand if you can push far enough around this corner. Corner is also where the OB ends, so important to get past that. This is another one of these holes that is very difficult to park off the tee. Even the best shot that happened on this hole usually land potentially inside the circle, but I haven't personally seen a drive get inside of 5 or 6 meters here. But Rasmus, important shot here, going with that overstable Firebird.
And he has the width to beat the corner. Some good overstability to fade towards the basket. Has thrown a good shot there to leave himself with his birdie putt. And I mentioned on the green of the previous hole for Niklas, could have opted to lay that up and play for par, honestly, given how many strokes ahead he was with how few holes. We see Kristian with a very early release as he catches those trees and falls straight down. No friendly kicks on that one. Does find himself out of bounds with the penalty stroke. And Niklas now.
A huge moment. He has thrown this hole very well in the past, and this looks like another beautiful drive. He's gonna be just outside the circle there. A similar distance of putt that he missed, completely airballed on the last hole. And this time, we'll have to see whether Niklas is opting to even lay that one up, as he still has at least 2 strokes going into the final hole.
Absolutely. I think it would be fair to say that that is a understandable game plan. Puru also coming out early with the forehand, that right side really pulling discs in. A lot of players will use a very overstable disc to try and get that late movement to the right, but if you don't get your release angle correct with that disc choice, it can very quickly bring OB right into play. As a result, Kristian with a good scramble there. Puru here with also quite a favorable gap for the soft straight shot. Pretty effortless there from him. As we go now to our current leading players. Niklas up first. We'll see how aggressive he gets.
And that was definitely a big putt for him. Wanted to remain 3 strokes ahead of Rasmus. That has a great chance to get one of those back here, as he does. A huge birdie in a huge situation. We're going to have a 2-stroke game on final hole, which definitely sets up for another 2-stroke swing.
There's no doubt that elevated basket we saw in the previous round. Rasmus actually going long of hole 18, which has a huge distance for a par 3. As we see both Puru and Kristian clean up their bogeys. That long distance shot that we saw from Rasmus proves he could even potentially ace the hole. He has the power, he has the skills. It would be a miraculous moment, but 2 strokes are still very much in play going to 18.
And 18, you already touched on it a little bit about just how long this hole is. 140 meters, even playing slightly uphill at the end. It's just an absolute bomb to reach this hole. So advantage Rasmus. He has been going for a straight T-bird on this hole. And Niklas pretty much has to throw a full distance drive to get inside the circle here. Even today there was a bit of a tricky wind for this hole, a right to left wind. So when you turn that drive over, expose the right wing of the disc, it will just keep turning and be pushed down. So Rasmus, huge moment here, going with that T-bird for the basket.
And he hits that late gap. Finds this fade. He is not quite all the way there yet, but in circle 2 and putting. If Niklas can put this in bounds and within range for a layup, can effectively play for par now. This will seal the deal.
With that
It's
understable DD3. Wow.
And it's a beautiful shot. He's shaped the fairway. He has a ton of distance, can lay that one up to the pedestal and tap in his par. We go to Kristian now.
Another player with a lot of distance for this hole. And he has actually stayed in bounds even after hitting some of those birch trees. So a pretty fortunate break there. Not much of a chance for the birdie. And Puru, this shot is actually for the solo 3rd place. He needs a par or better here to get solo 3rd. But this is turning over. Puru's Joutsen is going to be out of bounds. And if he wants to take that solo 3rd, he will have to throw it in from there. Or optionally, he might have to lay up and just take share of the 3rd place, as there is 2 players, Lauri Lehtinen and Otto Mäkinen, tied at 19 under. So important shot here from Puru.
Quite a surprising result for Puru off the tee. Not surprising to hear those names, though, of both Otto and Lauri. Incredible players who are constantly in contention at the top. We see from Kristian there a simple layup. And Rasmus now, with his last prevailing hope to put this one in. And with that tailwind, gets slammed down.
And Rasmus here to finish. Yeah, what a great performance from the 19-year-old. Incredible play, taking a second place in the Finnish Championships. And Joutsen here tapping in for the share of that third. Kristian, not the performance he wanted to have, but still well done throughout the tournament.
And you see here your 2023 back-to-back Finnish National Disc Golf Champion, Niklas Anttila. What a moment and what a performance. Was able to move his way to the lead in round one and held it, although not without its difficulties. Many incredibly talented players trying to push his pace. It all came down to the final holes. As we see that man right there hoist the trophy.
And you know he's happy about it. I believe Niklas is the first, as he's thanking the crowd, I believe he's the first player in this new era of Finnish Nationals where we're playing one tournament, one winner. And he's the first player, besides Leo Piironen, to catch 3 championships on the MPO side. So just a huge performance there as we take a look at the leaderboard. Niklas winning 2 strokes over Rasmus. And after that, as I mentioned on the final hole, Otto Mäkinen, Joutsen and Lauri Lehtinen sharing that third position on the podium. Wow, what a nice tournament. And thank you, Connor, for doing commentary with me. And thank you, viewers, for watching.
Thank you, Elias, for your incredible insights. And to all of you who joined us, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts, as well as check out the Patreon if you're feeling extra supportive. This tournament was a great example of just why Finland is an incredible destination for disc golf with some of the best players and courses in the world right now. Make sure to take that opportunity to head there yourself if you can. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.